Okay, so this last question is similar to the last question, the fourth question. The fifth question is similar to the fourth, in that they're going to ask, what are you going to do in this role? What are you going to focus on in this role? You could also say, what are you going to do in your first 90 days on the job? Or what are the things you're most excited to jump into and do? Or what are you going to try to accomplish in your first year? It's all kind of the same question. What are you going to do when you're actually in this job? I think the hidden question inside this one is, can we picture you in this role? The team is asking themselves, can I picture this person in this job? So you want to help them picture you there. You want to help them understand how you'd approach things. We talked about this a little earlier, but actually if you can start talking about the day-to-day things you'd like to do, or the first month or two of being on the job, what you'd like to focus on, you're way ahead of the pack. Most people haven't pictured themselves being in the role yet. They think, okay, I'll get the job, then I'll show up, then they'll tell me what I need to do. Well, a lot of jobs don't want you to show up and then be told what to do. They want you to know and jump into the job, hit the ground running, and already be off to the races. If you can even figure out your first 90 days and what you'd like to focus on, I mean, you're killing it at that point. And in the in-person interview, you can bring something with you that says, here's what I think I'd like to focus on. It doesn't matter that you're 100% right. They'd be happy to correct you. And if you're humble and kind, then you'll welcome their corrections to what you assume would be the things you want to focus on. But for now, what you want to do is understand what the organization's priorities are. Usually you know that from the mission statement, you know that from the website, and from what you've gathered from talking to people. And you want to listen and learn and be curious, and you want to be thinking about, okay, if I was in this role, what would I be doing day to day and week to week? And if you can add measurable things onto that and say, I think what I'd love to do is expand your partnerships. It looks like you already have quite a bit, but I think we can increase that by 20% in the next month. And I'd like to focus on partnerships. That's key. The other thing I'd like to do is really spend some time listening to everybody in the department, sit down with everyone and understand what's going well, what's not going so well, what could you really use help with, and prioritize that list. Work with you as my team to understand how to work on that together, and then spend that first month really learning and approaching from the marketing point of view, from the organizational point of view, how we could be better, then execute on that. And that's a great answer regardless of what position you're talking about. Most people jump into the role. That's the time when they're freshest. They have all these great ideas, and then they don't do anything with it. They just kind of get into the mundane day-to-day stuff. Well, if you can figure out how to take some time, learn from a lot of people, get curious and listen, then figure out a plan of attack, and you're killing it. Like, you're way ahead. And this is great preparation for your actual in-person interview, which I really hope you get, because that's going to be a chance when you can sit down with them and say, man, I've been really looking forward to this. I have this plan of attack I've laid out. I have all these things. I'm imagining myself in the role. I want to test some stuff with you. You're basically pretending you're already in the job, and they're going to treat you like you're already in the job. That's great, because they're basically thinking, yeah, okay, this is what the person would be like to work with. I'm already feeling out what it would be like to be in the job with them for like the first week or so. That's awesome. I mean, that's way ahead of the game. Also, in this last piece here, at the end of an interview, this is one of the last questions they're going to ask, and then they're probably going to say, okay, we've got some time left. What questions do you have for us? Well, you want to have a couple questions ready. And here's a couple standard ones that can really be helpful. One, what's your ideal for this role? Can you describe your ideal person for me for this role? It's a great question. It'd be nice to know that before the interview, but it's a good time to ask it now. The other one is, what would be the key outcomes you'd love to see this person execute on in the first 90 days, the first year in the role? How are you going to know this person's successful? You could also ask more organizational challenges, like what are some of the biggest challenges your organization's been facing recently? That's a general good question to ask. And maybe something a little softer, like, can you talk a little bit about what you think the ideal teammate would be like? Similar to the first question of what's your ideal for this role, but you're actually talking about the team player person, and they might start describing the personality they're looking for, which is great too. In the last bonus video, I'll kind of go through some basic things that could be helpful for you regardless, but I hope these 5 questions are helpful for you. They're pretty standard questions that are going to come up in any interview, and if you already are prepared to answer the hidden questions of, are you passionate, are you kind and good person, can we trust you, are you humble and a good listener, and can we picture you in this role? That's the hidden question. All these other questions are trying to understand, Can we picture you in this role? And what kind of a person are you? So answer those questions and you're going to be way ahead of the pack. And at the end of the day, there's some things you can't control. You can't control the other candidates and their educational background, their experience. You don't need to worry about that stuff. All you need to worry about is the best that you can do, bringing your experience, your education, your background to the role, and the kind of person you are, because that is what we're really hiring for. Most positions are hired for, and then actually they're up available again within a year. Like, I think it's like 60% of all jobs are then not hired for correctly, and you end up having to hire again. Well, it's not always the job description and the resume that makes that happen. It's often the interpersonal stuff. We're trying to figure out, are we going to be a good match with you? Are we going to like working with you? Or are we going to have challenges eventually that drive us apart? Well, that's what they're trying to figure out in a very short interview, and that's where these hidden questions are coming from. Good luck. I hope it goes great for you, and I'll see you in a little bonus video here in a second.